Okay, we come back now to our topic in proper. I was the first part, we were just trying to look at how the program for advanced level history paper 2 look like. So, as I earlier said, we are going to enter into a good mastery or a good revision of the topic population movement. I said over the years it has always been there in the paper. So after we must have looked at the topic, then we will come now and look at some questions and that can appear in the topic and how students can be able to tackle these questions. Now, let us look at what population movement is all about. Population movement in the 19th century Cameroon was the migration of tribes or polities from one geographical area to another. This movement in the 19th century Cameroon were mostly moving towards the southern part of the country. That is where a bulk of the movement was moving towards the southern part of the country. Even though there were some minor movements towards the Lake Chad, towards the east, towards the west. Now, the tribes that were involved in this movement were categorized into two. There were some major tribes which were frequently moving, which were tribes like the Bamilikes, the Bafut, the Balis, the Bamenakwen. These tribes were frequently moving. But other tribes were moving, but not frequently, like the Bakuri, the Dwalas, the Bamun. This one were not frequently moving. So those tribes that were frequently moving, we call them that they were major tribes, and those that were not frequently moving, we call them minor tribes or minor movement. Now, movement was caused by two groups of factors. There were push factors as well as there were pull factors. Push factors were those factors that scare people away from their initial settlement to new settlement. While pull factors were those factors that attracted people to come closer to the settlement. Now, what were the reasons why people were moving in the 19th century Cameroon? The people were not just moving because they wanted to move. They were moving either because they were pull or push factors as we have looked at it. So the causes of movement in the 19th century Cameroon were divided into political causes, geographical causes, economic causes, and social causes. We are going to start by looking at the political causes which were responsible for the migration of people from one geographical area to another in Cameroon in the 19th century. The first political factor we have to look, we talk about intertribal wars. Intertribal wars were wars that were fought between two or more tribes in the 19th century Cameroon. This war was fought mostly because during the 19th century Cameroon, some tribes will go and encroach or cross their boundary and enter into land that belongs to another tribe. They did so because the dominant economic activity at the time in 19th century Cameroon was agriculture, which was mostly subsistence agriculture, which means that the people need to cultivate a piece of land for some years, and when the piece of land is no longer fertile, they abandon it and move with their families and with their property to a different location, waiting for the piece of land to gain its fertility. Now, in the course of moving to look for another piece of land where the people need to settle and cultivate, they will not encroach into a land that belongs to a different tribe, and because of that, they will enter into wars. Cases in point, we talk about the Bafut people. The Bafut fought a war with the people of Timor. They fought a war with Timor, Bafut Timor, Bafut Obam, Bafut Mundum, Bafut and Dum. These were tribes where the Bafut fought intertribal wars with them. Now, another case, we have the Bali Mancon. The Bali fought a war with Mancon that led to movement. There was also Bafut Bali War. There was the Saw and the Bamum War. We could also talk about the Bamilikes and the Bamum. who also fought intertribal wars. Now, we know in population movement the reason why the GCE board frequently bring this topic is because they want to test student ability to be able to cite examples. Here we are writing with examples. If you are explaining a factor, you should be able to cite examples like the one I have just mentioned here on the board. You should not just write that they move, because most often students write explain the point very well, but you cannot cite a good example. So these were some examples of some tribes that had intertribal wars that led to migration under intertribal wars. Let's enter the second point: dynastic quarrels. Dynastic quarrels or succession disputes were wars that were fought in a kingdom, mostly by princes and princesses who were ambitious to succeed the king when the king died. So, when the king died, and some princes and princesses who have the ambition to succeed him want to contradict the will of their father, and by so doing, a particular section in the kingdom will be supporting that they want this particular son or this particular daughter to be the successor. And when it does not work on their side as they wanted it to be, they will be forced to move to go to a different settlement because they do not want to settle in the kingdom to see another opponent rule them. So, dynastic quarrels or succession dispute were among princes and princesses fighting to succeed their father. At the end, those who were not able to take over the throne, they will now have to migrate to different settlements. Cases in point or example, we talk about the case of Bali, the Bali Chambers, who migrated in northern Cameroon and came and settled in Bafufondong, Nyencham in the west. In 1835, the Bali fought a war with the Bamilikes in the year 1835. The war led to the death of King Gaubert. He was the king of the Bali people. When King Gaubert died, rival sons and daughters, or prince and princesses, started fighting to take over the throne. It all started by two sons, Samsu and Galanga. These were the two sons who started fighting. And because of they fighting to succeed the throne, other princes and princesses joined, and we later discover that because many of them could not succeed the throne, and when you could not succeed the throne, you start moving up to the grass field to go and form your own kingdom. And today we have 7 different Balis who break out as a result of the Bali chambers splitting in 1835 in Bafufundong. We can talk about Bali Nyoma, we have Bali Nyoma, we have Bali Kumbat, Ngasho, Bali Ngasho, Bali Mutsi, Bali Kontang, and Bali Nganshin. These are the 7 different Balis that split off from the chambers or the Bali chambers in 1835 when King Albert died and rival prince and princesses were fighting to succeed, but they later moved and formed different Bali chambers. This is example you need to give in order to have a good mastery or a good pass in the point. This is what you are expected to give. Or aside this example, let's look at other cases in point where people have to migrate because of dynastic quarrels. We can talk again the case of the Nsor and Bamum. Nsor and Bamum, they are from the same ancestry. The Nsor people, their original settlement is where we call Reform or Mbankim. This is where they have initially settled. But because of a rivalry to succeed the throne between the sons of the leader of Nsor people, these two children, we have Ngongso and Charien. These were the two children who were fighting to succeed the throne. And because of that, Gongso went and formed and saw Fondong and Charaye for Bamum. So we can see that Bamum and then Saw, they are the same people because they have the same ancestor. Another case in point where we can look at it, we should talk about the case of the Doualas and the Bakweri. We say that the people of Douala, they originated in Pitsi in Upper Congo. They left there because their leader Mbenzi. Mbenzi died. When Mbenzi died, sons and daughters who wanted to take over the throne, they have to migrate from Pitsi. Ewale, one of the sons, migrated and came and settled in the Wuli estuary and formed the Douala people, where other sons moved and formed other part of Douala, like we have the Bakweri people, which was also part of the Doualas. So we have Mbenzi, Ewale, which were all a split up of the people of Douala, where we have Bakweri now and the Doualas. They are one person. Those are cases under dynastic quarrels that we can look as examples. Now, let's go to our third factor, political factor. We talk about the Jihad. Jihad were holy wars that were launched in northern Cameroon by Modibo Adama, who was the flag bearer of Ottoman Fodzo. Now, Islam was introduced in northern Cameroon, and when Islam was introduced in northern Cameroon by the Muslim Fulanese, not all the tribes in northern Cameroon accepted Islam as a religion. Now, those who refused to accept Islam, according to the prescription of the Quran and endorsed by the Sunnah, it was obligatory for Muslims to convert those who do not accept Islam to accept Islam. And so it was forced for the Muslim or those who accept Islam to convert those who never accepted Islam to accept the religion. And so Modibo Adama thought it necessary that a jihad or a holy war should be launched against these tribes that never accepted Islam. And by so doing, some of the pagan Kidi tribes, because they never wanted to accept Islam, they started migrating into different parts of Cameroon. We talk about the Mbaya, the migration of the Mbaya to the southeast of Cameroon was because they never wanted to accept Islam. We have Musgum, we have the Tsukuri, we have the Fali, we have the Bata. All these tribes, they moved towards the Chad in the northern part because they never wanted to accept Islam. So the jihad has to force them to migrate to different settlements. These are some examples of tribes that migrated because they did not want to accept Islam as a religion, and so the jihad was now used to force them. And in the course of their rejecting to accept Islam, they were bound to migrate. We talk again of search for peaceful settlement. This was another political reason why people migrated in the 19th century Cameroon. People who do not love trouble or do not want troublesome neighbors, they have to only migrate to areas where they feel that they could have peace, where they were not neighbors that could be troublesome to them. They have to migrate. We talk about the barbarians moving towards the slopes of Mount Fako because they needed peaceful settlement. The barbarians moving towards the slopes of Mount Fako because they needed peaceful settlement. That is an example of a tribe that migrated because it needed peaceful settlement. We can also talk about some Muslims or a Kidi tribes who moved towards the Mandara mountain to settle because they do not want to be aggressed by their Fulanese. So they have to migrate towards the Mandara mountain for peaceful settlement. Again, we talk about the next point, we talk about payment of tributes. Tributes were items that were paid by the weaker tribe or the loser to the victorious tribe when intertribal wars were fought. These tributes could be paid in the form of cowries, in the form of food items, cows, yams, even slaves. So tribes who did not want to pay tribute, the only thing was that what they have to move to different settlements. We can have a glaring example again. The migration, one of the reasons why the Mbaya migrated from northern Cameroon to the eastern part of Cameroon was because they never wanted to pay tribute to the Muslim Fulanese. This was an example of tribe that did not want to pay tribute. Again, we can also talk about the Buu people who migrated because they did not want to pay tribute to their aggressive Bafo neighbors. Why the Tingo, Obang, and Mundung accepted to pay tribute to the Bafut and settled beside them, the Buu people saw no need to pay tribute to the Bafut, and for that reason, they have to migrate. So those are examples under payment of tribute. We take our last political point, we take about German rates. We know that the German annexed Cameroon, when the German annexed Cameroon on the 12th of July 1884, they also contributed to the migration of some tribes in Cameroon. Because the German policies were too harsh. The German has harsh political, economic, and social policies on some Cameroonian tribes, and because of that, these tribes were forced to migrate. The Germans had to force the people of Widikum to work in plantation, and because of that, the people of Widikum in the year 1906 were forced to migrate to Bali because they did not want to work forced labor under the German plantation. So those are some of the political reasons which causes people to migrate in the 19th century Cameroon. Now, from these political reasons, they can still use only these political reasons and set an essay question only in political reasons. For example, they can ask a question that to what extent was the migration of tribes in the 19th century Cameroon caused as a result of dynastic quarrels or succession disputes? In that question, we will look at MP1, main part 1, we will be expatiating on dynastic quarrels, how they contributed to the migration of tribes in the 19th century Cameroon, because the question said to what extent in advanced level history, when you see a question to what extent, it's a two-sided question. So our first part of the question will be expatiating on dynastic quarrels, how they contributed to the migration of people in the 19th century Cameroon. Then MP2 now, we talk about other causes of population movement. We are going to come in the second lectures and look at other causes to population movement. Thanks so much. I'm Sir Echelon.